Welcome to The Business on Radio Verulam, the voice of your local business community.
Hello, it's certainly tried to be spring today in Hearts, and you are listening to The Business. We describe ourselves as essential listening for the West Hearts business community. If you want to get in touch with us, our studio number is 01727 8326. Twitter at RVTheBusiness, or email us at thebusiness@radioverulam.com. We'd love to hear from you, your hints, tips, thoughts or ideas. Anything to do with West Hearts business. So I'm Victoria Scott, and today I've got with me Roma Bhowmick, as always, and today we'd also like to introduce a new team member, Clare McAnulty. More about Clare later on. Apologies from Trevor at Merriden, who tells us he's working tonight, but I've got a sneaking suspicion he might well be watching the last round of the Masters. If you're out there, Trevor, hope you're not working too hard. As always, we've got a packed show. I'll be having an in-depth look at an alternative approach to business law with David Hughes, the MD of Canopy Law. Roma, as always, has got an interesting panel discussion. It will include David and Clare, but also on the phone we've got Rachel Bridge, author of How to Start a Business with No Money. And we've got hints and tips on business from Mediterranean Boucherie, an e-commerce business called Clare, and a couple of other things. But of course, we will also be finishing off with our diary planner, which is a roundup of the week ahead. But first, what's in the business news? In a week following Margaret Thatcher's death, there's been a lot of rhetoric about how much the shape of business has changed. Roma, what's been business news for you?
Well, I don't really want to get into the Margaret Thatcher debate, but I think there's a lot of that going on elsewhere in the press. But I guess the theme of passing on is relevant to my story. It's about Google, and Google will allow users to decide what happens to their data after they die or become inactive online, the first major company to deal with the sensitive issue. The feature applies to email, social network, Google+, and other accounts. Users can choose to delete data after a set period of time or pass it on to specific people. Internet users around the world have expressed concern about what happens to their data after their demise. We hope that this new feature will enable you to plan your digital afterlife in a way that protects your privacy and security and make life easier for your loved ones after you've gone, Google said in a blog spot. California-based Google, who also owns YouTube, photo sharing devices, Picasa and Blogger, Google... I've lost my place now in terms of my thinking. Google users can opt to have their data deleted after 3, 6, 9 or 12 months of inactivity. Alternatively, certain contacts can be sent data from some or all of their services. So other companies have also attempted to tackle the questions that raises after a person's death. Facebook's an example which allows users to memorialise an account. It's all interesting stuff, and actually don't know what to make of it, but I do know that people are concerned about what does happen after someone departs.
Yes, there's some sort of quite interesting stories flying around about accounts that stay alive, really, after the person has died, and cause either, on the one hand, lots of grief to the people that left, or alternatively some sort of continuity for others. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So... any views or news or ideas that you've got on that, do call us on 01727 839 926. Tweet us at RVTheBusiness or email us with your thoughts at thebusiness@radioverulam.com. And over to Clare. Let me introduce Clare. Clare McAnulty is our latest team member. Clare spent many years recording and mixing sound at the BBC. She's also freelanced on all sorts of radio and television programmes, including news, current affairs, drama and outside broadcasts. So we're very, very pleased to have her with us at Radio Verulam. She now runs a company called Compact Video, who make promotional videos for business owners to use online and on their websites. Clare, welcome to The Business. Has anything caught your eye in the business news this week?
Yes, well, we've had a lovely day weather-wise today, and spring for thousands of people means the start of house hunting season. So I noticed this week that there are changes afoot as regards estate agents. At the moment, if you're looking for a property, most of us go straight online and check out the popular Rightmove website, although other websites are available. Currently, only estate agents are allowed to advertise on this site. However, that may be about to change. And if it does, that will allow private companies and private individuals the ability to advertise their properties on the likes of Rightmove without involving the traditional estate agent. This could result in do-it-yourself house sales and the saving of thousands of pounds in estate agents' fees. So obviously the estate agents are none too happy about it. The proposed change in the Estate Agents Act 1979 and the Property Misdescriptions Act 1991 has been instigated by Vince Cable at the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills. The thinking behind it is to create opportunities for growth and competition. The changes are due to take place before the end of this year, so I think we'll be keeping a little eye on this one.
Oh, it's an interesting one, isn't it? There's a lot of people out there that rather like the idea of estate agents getting a bit of competition, I think. There's a lot of people that have been burnt by estate agents in the past, so maybe some healthy competition is not such a bad thing. A couple of things caught my eye this week. They're both actually sort of simple thoughts from big businesses, but what made me interested in them was that I thought that actually the thinking that they were looking at, or that was being applied to those big businesses, could really be applicable to the smallest of businesses as well. And the first one was the mighty Pascal Siot, CEO of AstraZeneca, had come up with a global mantra for AstraZeneca, which was 3 words: focus, accelerate and transform. Now, I'm absolutely sure there was a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of money was spent getting those words together. But the bottom line is I couldn't really agree more with those 3 words being very, very good words to offer any small business. If you focus your business, if you actually think about accelerating it and you can transform it, then you will have a future in business. So I think they're words that are really good and could apply to any small business. But the other one, on a similar sort of note, was another truth. Andrew Tile, Parliamentary Commission for Banking Standards, said that HBOS failed not because of some rogue trader, complex investment banking vehicle or a structural fund. It failed because the management got it completely wrong. I thought, hallelujah, after all those hours and days and column inches and television programmes, etc., actually, management can just simply get things wrong, and actually laying blame elsewhere isn't necessarily going to dig you out of a hole. You've got to take it on the chin. You've got to, as a management team, whether you're a big company or a small company, you've got to be responsible for what happens in that company, and it's you that manage the future. So, 2 interesting things that, both big companies that we were looking at that could apply to small companies alike.
I'll be interested to know what HBOS do about it, though, because I always think that's the biggest issue, that, they're saying, isn't it kind of stating the obvious to say, well, obviously it's management's fault. It's kind of obvious that it is, but what are they going to do about it?
Yeah, well, that's going to be very interesting to watch as well.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Through a national network of more than 15,000 trained parent volunteers, Home Start supports thousands of parents who are struggling to cope. Families may need support for many reasons, including postnatal illness, disability, bereavement, and the illness of a parent or child, or social isolation. Parents support other parents to help build a family's confidence and ability to cope. You can find them at 31 Spencer Street, St Albans, and their telephone number is 01727 833 810.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
So you're listening to The Business. I'm Victoria Scott, and we want you, the local business community, to get involved So if you've got something to say, if you've got a question to ask, you've got a hot tip to share, please get in touch. Earlier in the month, Clare, McAnulty, spotted a new shop in St Albans selling new Mediterranean fare. So despite just opening, it was doing brisk trade in this supposed recession. And the brisk trade was in fresh meat, olives and pastries, which I can absolutely vouch for because they're sitting on my hips as I sit here. So Claire went along and asked Ali, the owner, about himself and how his business was going.
My name is Ali and my business partner called Islam. We're both from Algeria, North Africa. Our shop is called the Mediterranean Boucherie and we're based in Hatfield Road, just right behind the Tesco Express on number 71. We've done some researches and we realised that food is the only thing that not been hit by a recession. So we thought, it would be a good business and we wanted to bring our tradition to St Albans.
You're a couple of doors down from a Tesco Metro, which other people might think is competition.
Yeah,
and then you're probably 5 minutes walk away from Morrisons, which is further down Hatfield Road.
Yeah.
So can you maybe tell me, are there actually advantages to being near?
We wanted to open a shop here, even though you got a Tesco next door, and that makes it more challenging, obviously. And don't forget, most of our product, about 80 or 85%, are unique product. You won't be able to buy them in Tesco as well as Morrisons. My background is Mediterranean, so most of our product are Mediterranean, and it's quite difficult to find here in St Albans a Mediterranean shop. So obviously a Tesco is a good option for us because it brings more people in to the area. So far so good. We're doing all right.
What sort of food have people been buying mainly?
Yeah, they've been buying mainly a French pastry, I'd say, because this is something new in town, as you can see. And they've been buying our meat as well, competitive prices as well, not very expensive prices. So that's why people are coming back.
You've only been open a couple of days, so what response have you had?
The response and the impression are very good so far. We have customers that have already been here and they've come back about 2 or 3 times already, which is something very interesting. They said that it's a lovely shop, it's very bright, it's very clean, very tidy. So this is compliment that gives us more courage and to keep it on the top level.
So that was Ali of the Mediterranean Boucherie, which, as I said before, they have fabulous pastries. It looks gorgeous. Just go and visit him. But quite interestingly, he talks a lot about unique products. So, Claire, I understand that he's quite local to you and you're visiting him quite often now.
Yes, no, it was a cake shop before Ali opened, and there was never anyone in it, and that was the very first thing I noticed. First, that it was a new shop, and second, it seemed to be populated with an awful lot of people all of a sudden. So that was how I noticed it. So it's about 3 minutes from the house, which is very, very good news for me.
Mm. And so unique products. It doesn't matter whether you're Morrisons, Sainsbury's or whatever. If you've got unique products, people will come and buy.
Absolutely.
So we're now going to move on to that point in the show when we've now got our guest in the studio. So welcome David Hughes of Canopy Law. Now, I know that you've got quite a new and unique approach to law, so I hope over the next few days, the interview's not going to be that long, sorry, the next few minutes, you're going to tell us all about it. One of the things that a lot of us would think that lawyers always, well, first of all, they make me feel guilty. It's a bit like walking through customs. You always feel as though you're doing something wrong. And the second is that you're always terrified it's going to cost heaps of money. And you're not sure the benefit that's going to come out. So I hope you're going to tell us a little bit more about why things are different at Canopy Law. So welcome, David. Why did you set up Canopy Law?
Why did I set up? Well, I've worked in traditional law firms, if I can call them that, over the last 10 years or so. And the one thing that I've become increasingly sure of is that things are changing. There's a bit of a revolution going on in the legal profession, and things certainly won't be the same in 5 years' time as they were today. And in fact, today it's very different to the image of solicitors that I think we all grew to know and maybe not love over the last century or so. Law's been carried on in a very traditional way, and the idea behind canopylaw.com was to do something different.
And what is it that you're doing differently?
Well, firstly, to try and put it as much as I can online. So if it's possible to automate it and put it online, if it's possible to put a piece of advice in a top 7 tips or in a video, then that's what I try and do, and then put it online so it's accessible free for business owners, particularly small business owners, but any business owners to get that help that they need.
So can I just say that? So did you say free legal advice?
As much as possible. I mean, obviously, not every single piece of legal advice can be offered free, but the idea is that if it can be automated, if it can be put online in a package in a way that business owners can access it any time of the day or night, then why shouldn't they be able to do that?
Well, that's an extraordinarily new approach to law. Normally you walk in and the clock starts and the pounds start racking up. So there are clearly some aspects of law that you believe are just quite straightforward enough that people can just get the advice literally online.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the things that I looked at was moneysavingexpert.com and what Martin Lewis has been able to do there. So he offers an awful lot of advice on personal finance, which is free. And one of the things that he does is he doesn't provide all of the content himself, but he goes around the web and finds the best advice and then points people towards it. So that's one of the things that I've tried to do at canopylaw.com. We're not writing every single article, but if we can find the 5 best articles on partnership agreements or on how to start a new company, then we'll collate those on the website and point business owners towards them.
Isn't that going to be a little bit tricky? I mean, what happens? So I've got a legal problem. Do I go onto your website? Do I go onto YouTube? Where do I go to find this information? I go to Canopy Law's website.
If you go to canopylaw.com. And
I then have a look at the 5 different ways to set up a partnership. What if I do that and it goes wrong?
There's an awful lot of business law which business owners can do themselves, and which actually they do themselves at the moment because they're frightened to walk into a solicitor's office because the clock might start ticking, or just because it's an intimidating place to go. But they're doing it with not much help at all. There's an awful lot of really good legal advice out there on the web. It's just difficult to find it.
And to know the quality of what you're looking at. So
yes, and that's one of the things that we could do at canopylaw.com, is to find this and then rate it, tell the users how good we think it is.
So it's actually really protecting people who are currently having a bash themselves, not really knowing the quality of what they're looking at. They can actually come and highly recommended these, but then presumably they then actually say, do you know what, I think I need a bit more help on this. David, can you help me with the next stage? Is that how it works from a business perspective?
Absolutely, that is. So not everything can be automated. So where it can't be automated, one of the things that we're trying to do differently is to do the law, to offer business law, but only offer fixed fees. Right. So the profession that I was trying to get away from was the legal profession that we all know. It charges by the hour, and as soon as you pick up the phone, the clock starts ticking.
So there's always that belief that actually this whole diatribe is taking longer because they want it to clock onto the second hour or something like that. I'm sure that there's lots of lawyers that aren't like that, but there is that worry. But you will say, OK, if you want to set up that company, we'll do the partnership agreement and it's going to cost you X number of pounds.
Yes, and it's a fixed fee because in this day and age, that's what we all expect as business owners, and particularly as small business owners. If you don't have control of your overheads, then it can get really difficult.
It sounds quite revolutionary. Are your fellow professionals a bit terrified of you?
Well, hopefully not just me. There's a lot going on out there in the legal industry. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of new entrants into the market who aren't traditional solicitors firms.
Tesco Law.
Well, Tesco Law is the label. Ironically, Tesco don't do law, and I don't think they've announced any plans to actually do it. But they are the retail kings, and as law becomes more of a retail thing. And moves down from the office above the shop to actually the shop front itself, and it will go that way over the next 5 or 10 years. Then it's quite an apt label, Tesco Law.
And so you're moving in ahead of the game. which is excellent. How's it going?
I'm not on the high street, but certainly one of the benefits of the web is that you can offer these services.
Got a shop window
and found, that is the shop window. Yeah,
and it's a much bigger area that you can cover. Other classic sort of things that businesses do wrong. Have you got like 5 particular things that you come across all the time that companies are doing wrong, that you sort of think if only they'd looked, at those 3 papers that are on the website?
There's contracts is a problem, and making sure, one of the things is making sure your terms and conditions are binding on your customer or your client, and in order to do that you need to have shown the client the terms and conditions before you confirm the contract with them. So it's no good agreeing the price and then confirming the order and then putting the terms and conditions on the back of the order, or even worse, on the back of your invoice. They're then not binding on your client. You need to have shown them. And the relevance of that is that if you've got payment terms saying payment within 14 days and that you can charge interest on late payment, then it's no good having them in a set of non-binding terms and conditions. But I'd say the biggest problem for businesses is non-payment, is bad debts, and that's a really difficult one. Even if you've got the most watertight set of terms and conditions, if you don't get paid, it's then up to you to chase it.
And are there methods out there for small businesses to actually get money out of other small businesses, really?
Well, the top tip I give to any business starting out is to take a deposit. Try and take as much as you can as a deposit. I would say anywhere between 20% and 50% as a deposit, and don't be shy about asking for that.
No.
If your potential client is reluctant to pay you 20% up front to do the work, then I think that's probably when the first warning sign.
If you haven't done that, though, are there post contract opportunities to get the money out? Because I'm sure that this is going to be a problem that a lot of our listeners are going to be thinking about. That sort of cash flow situation.
A lot of solicitors firms, to be fair to them, offer fixed fee services to write that first letter, and sometimes, a lot of the time, the problem is getting your customer or your client to pay attention to you. If they've gone quiet and haven't paid the debt, then sometimes that first solicitor's letter just jogs them into responding to you.
Right.
And many of the solicitors firms now do a fixed letter for a small fee, as much as or as little as £5 or £15.
Right. Well, that's very reasonable, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
You talked about sort of what you can do in those sorts of circumstances. Are there any really damaging things that people just get completely wrong that cost them a lot of money to put right?
Employment, I think, is probably the familiar minefield. That if you get the employment contract wrong, then trying to deal with an employee who doesn't work out as you'd hope later on can be difficult, and that's because the raft of employment legislation, which changes every year, is so difficult to navigate, even for the professionals, let alone the small business owners. I would say that's probably the most difficult area.
And the one that can be possibly most costly.
And yes, exactly, it can be very costly.
Goodness me, yeah, I've come across some horrors in that area with big companies as well as small companies. It can be naughty. So, if there's just one piece of legal advice that you would give a startup company, for example, what would it be?
It would be to take that deposit. I think that's so important to see if you can get as much as 50% of the fee up front, because if you have the best contract in the world, the onus is on you to chase it if the client doesn't pay. And if you're a startup company, you often don't have the resources to do that. So as much as who's right and who's wrong, I think it's the key is who's holding the money when the music stops.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very, very good piece of advice. David, thank you very, very much for coming along. We're going to, I'm sure, get to you with some more hints and tips later on. Thank you very, very much, as I said. Where do people go to? They go to www.canopylaw.com. So if you need any advice, if you want some top tips, if you've got some difficult problems, go to www.canopylaw.com. Thank you very much, David. You're going to be joining the panel and Roma and Clare a bit later, so we look forward to that. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Hi, this is Danny Smith. Join me weekdays from 4 till 7 p.m. for West Hart's Drive Time, with features including Chris's Film Club, Pound Saver, Community Notice Board, Calendar Artist, Hot Topics and many more besides. We also feature correspondence covering topics such as lifestyle, consumer advice, cooking, interior design and travel. We have regular interviews, local news and sports, celebrity birthdays, travel and traffic updates and competitions as well. That's all on West Hart's Drive Time with me, Danny Smith, on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
The Business on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
Hello, and here we are in our our regular show debate. Every week we debate the big issues, and this week we're welcoming David Hughes back into our panel discussion. And I've asked Vicky actually to stay in today. So Vicky, don't run away. You're going to join in our discussion. So yes, welcome to both of you. We're also going to be joined by Rachel Bridge, who's author of How to Start a Business with No Money. I believe we've had a few little technical hitches with telephones, but she'll be joining us very shortly. Well, some of you may remember our guest Stuart Thomas, who joined the panel a couple of months ago to talk about funding for small business. He also mentioned that there was a new grant fund about to come online and that we would be the first to know, as they say. Well, true to his words, Stuart came in to talk about it in more detail the other day, and this is what he had to say.
Thank you very much indeed to Roma and Trevor for allowing me to tell you about Grants for Growth, the local enterprise growth and efficiency programme. Now, this is open to all SMEs in the 6 counties of the east of England. So if you reside in Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, Essex, Norfolk or Suffolk, this could be of interest to you. Grants for Growth is a 2-year package of free, confidential and impartial support for SMEs, providing practical help and financial assistance to help them reduce costs and increase competitiveness and resilience. Simple, straightforward grants and quantifiable action to improve efficiency, reduce carbon emissions and help your business invest and grow. Capital grants are available up to a maximum of 28% of the eligible capital expenditure. Now, there is a cap on this of £6,300. However, in certain circumstances, that cap can be exceeded, so don't worry too much about that. It's for investment in technology or processes that facilitate growth, improve resilience, or create and/or safeguard jobs. It's for efficiency initiatives in the form of waste, water or energy efficiency, or the recovery or reduction of those. And it's for investment in technology and processes that reduce the environmental impact of your operations. So if you are a small to medium-sized enterprise, you are in one of the 6 counties of the east of England, and you are thinking of making some capital expenditure that will either reduce your carbon footprint, improve your operations, or create and/or safeguard jobs, then please get in touch, and Roma and Trevor will tell you how to get in touch with us at the end of this trailer.
Well, of course, Stuart didn't realise that Trevor wasn't going to be here tonight, so it's actually Roma. And before I give you a bit more detail and we discuss with the rest of the panel the whole issue around funding, what I'd like to do actually is play you an interesting piece, an interview, that Vicky did with a company called Clare, was it, Ricky?
That's right, Clare.
Yes. And Clare are innovative in their own way, so let's just hear what they had to say about their business.
Caleya, which is named after a little village in northern Spain, in the Catalan area. And we set this up just over a year ago. There's two other partners with me, and it was really following my journey of having had breast cancer. And when I was diagnosed, and then I went to have my double mastectomy, and then booked a holiday to go away very soon after, and didn't want to miss that for the world, I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything that was of very good quality, that made me feel... You want to feel normal. You want to feel like you did before you had the surgery. And I just wanted something that made me feel good, that I could go down on the beach and think, actually, not everybody is going to be looking at me going, she's had a mastectomy. So that was the reason I set it up. And I thought there must be lots of other women out there of all ages that feel the same. And there's a very much a shortage of supply out there of lovely swimwear. So, yeah, hence Clare is born, and I'm loving it.
And e-commerce... You've decided that was the way to go rather than retail?
Yes, definitely. Well, because of what we're doing, mastectomy swimwear, people don't want to necessarily go out and try something on in a shop. They want it to be in their own home. And we offer a very personal service, even though it is e-commerce. People ring up as well, and they ask for advice, and they want somebody on the end of a phone. There is always somebody on the end of a phone who can give whatever advice they need, recommend them certain styles, because it is a very personal thing, and we go, I believe anyway, that we go above and beyond really, because I think it's all about offering a really excellent service.
It's really interesting because most e-commerce sites you wouldn't think of that relationship that you have with a customer. So it's interesting that service and customers are really high on your priority. That's quite interesting. So if you were to set the business up again, would you have a sort of light bulb moment? Is there anything that you'd change?
I would actually, thinking about it. When we set it up, we thought that there was swimwear that was non-mastectomy that would work. Costumes that anybody would wear, and I think in hindsight that was a mistake, because actually you've got to be specific, and I think because it's a niche market, you want to be able to offer customers something that is definitely going to work, because people want to feel safe. They want to put on a costume and think, I feel that I can walk down on the beach and it's going to be absolutely fine, whereby some of the non-mastectomy, it might work, it might not. So in hindsight I definitely would not have stopped any of that.
So you really looking at a niche market,
very niche,
sticking to your niche,
absolutely,
and not being swayed away from it. On top of that, offering service because the customer comes first.
Yes.
Anything else? Any other tips in the e-commerce arena? Were you familiar with e-commerce before you set the business up?
Well, a bit, but nothing. I haven't got great skills in that area, so it was very much learning as we went along. Any other tips? I think go with your gut instinct, and also not always choose something that you really like, because actually everybody out there likes different things. Particularly with retail, you tend to be always steered towards things that you think, oh, that would look lovely. It would look lovely, but it might not look lovely on the next person, and something else might look lovely on them. So be diverse, be flexible, think out of the box a little bit. However, remember that your market is niche, and always make sure that you're selling something that is going to work and is going to fit that person's needs.
That's brilliant, Mel. So thank you very, very much.
Oh,
we wish you every success with the business.
Thank you very much.
That's www.calea.co.uk. Thank you very much, Melanie.
Well, there you go. An innovative business, and innovation always goes a long way, something a bit different. So it sounded like you had a very interesting meeting, Vicky.
Yes, no, it was interesting. I think some of the things that Mel said were really, really key. She didn't know too much about e-commerce before she set it up, but she thought that there was a gap in the market. She felt that there was, and it looks as though it's proving that there is. And she said the other thing that really struck a chord for me was, the sort of concept about niche and sticking with what it is that's important and the reason why you've gone into business, and don't get sort of waylaid and drift away from that niche. And therefore dilute what it is that you're trying to achieve. So, very, very interesting. It'll be interesting once again to watch how they develop and how they get on. But very, very nice interviewing.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's always great to know that you've got an innovative idea. You can think outside the box. You can do something different, and that takes your business forward. But sometimes businesses need help, and as Stuart pointed out, there's this new Grants for Growth scheme that's just come come online. It's a new £8.5 million project run in partnership with the Local Enterprise Partnerships, or as we know them affectionately, the LEPs. It provides capital grants for SMEs to purchase or install efficient new processes, production facilities and clean technology, helping them to invest to grow. Revenue grants and other direct assistance to support SMEs to promote products or services such as clean technology and renewable technology. The project is funded by the European Regional Development Fund, the ERDF, and the project is being delivered by Breckland Council in conjunction with Hertfordshire Local Enterprise Partnership. Eligibility is strictly for SMEs, which is great news, not just about the big business. There are various rules, and really the best thing to do is to go online to find out more. But obviously, Stuart will always be on hand to speak to any business. So if anyone wants to get in touch with us, then we can likewise put you in touch with Stuart. So grants and awards for business are nothing new, but are they really as valuable as they seem? And that's really what I want to talk to our panel about tonight. It's great news that you can access money, but are they worth it? Is the pain of filling out forms and goodness knows what else going to be worth it for you? Now, I'm pleased to say that I do believe we have Rachel on the line at the moment. Rachel, are you there, as they say?
I am. Hello.
Yay.
I'm right here. Hi.
Brilliant.
Nice to speak to you.
And to you. Thank you very much for joining us again this evening. So,
my pleasure.
So knowing that you're there, I'd like to kick off with you. What do you think, Rachel? Do you think that grants are valuable or as valuable as they seem?
I think that anything that helps SMEs and small businesses is great in this way. So I think grants can be very, very useful. I think my one caveat, and as you know, I've just written a book called How to Start a Business Without Any Money, is that you shouldn't rely on getting a grant, and you shouldn't make that the basis of your business model. If you get grant funding or if you get some kind of loan, that's fantastic, but it should be a bonus. It should be a sort of unexpected bonus rather than something that you assume you're going to get or that you rely on. Because grants, they come and they go, and what might be around this year might not be around next. And you need to be able to be sure that you can make the business work when it's not there as well.
Yes, it's always the danger is that you do rely on those grants, as you say, Rachel. David, have you ever had any encounters with government grant funding or worked with clients who've accessed funding?
I haven't personally. I am aware that there are a lot of grants out there at the moment, but the buzz idea at the moment from government seems to be to target these grants and this funding at the businesses that they see as being the high growth businesses. So I think they've identified that 90% of the jobs are going to come from 10% of the high growth businesses. So they're trying to get this funding to those businesses. Mm-hmm. Whether it works or not, I don't know. I guess it's early days. I don't know whether these businesses would be high growth anyway. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting. Is it? I'm interested in the way that you've just answered that question. It sounds as if possibly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you feel that it's a bit too biased. Is it such a bad thing to be focused on high growth businesses if they're going to generate more jobs?
No, I think that's terrific, and I think if they can get the funding targeted so they're wasting less funding, I guess, it's a good thing. So, no, I think that's a great thing. What I am not sure of is whether the funding and the grants and so on do actually promote high growth, or whether that would happen anyway. Mm-hmm. And I genuinely don't know. I guess there probably aren't any stats yet to back that up.
Okay. Well, we've been joined by Clare as well now in the studio. She was outside doing a grand job trying to get hold of Rachel for us. Clare, what are your thoughts? You run your own business as well as working with us at the business.
Yeah. I think with grants, I think quite often people don't apply for them because you think that you won't get them, or it will be too much work to fill the forms and everything in. got a situation at the moment where I'm working on an application with my sister actually, and we're trying to apply for a grant. This is up in Scotland, and part of the condition is that we provide 50% of our own money and then get the other 50% as grant, which I think is quite a good idea actually, because I think it really does make you think, do you actually need the grant? Have you got enough money to start it going? But I'm all for this grant, and I would just, if anybody's listening, I would just encourage people to apply, because you might if you don't buy a raffle ticket, you don't get a prize. So people should apply.
Yeah, as listeners may know, and I know you guys know, maybe not you, David, in a previous life, I worked as a business advisor with one of the regional development agencies and worked with grant funding, and I would say the most successful grants were those that were match funded. As you say, Claire, I think it's important that companies also put in their own financial buffers. And Rachel, as you pointed out, it's very important to make sure that you're financially secure. And as you say, your book, which looks at starting a business with no money, I'm sure addresses that issue.
Well, I think the key thing is it's important not to assume that you're going to get money. There's sometimes there can be this expectation that people think, well, I've come up with a great business idea, right, I'll go out and get funding. I'll kind of turn up to the bank or I'll apply for a grant and somehow this money that I need will arrive. I think that those assumptions shouldn't be there anymore. There isn't that automatic right to have money. So I think it's important that one has a very lean business model that doesn't require lots of start-up money up front, and that you can operate in a very sort of low-cost way. I think that's really, really important, that you're not relying on these external funds to kind of get you going.
And that, as you say, is the absolute key. Keeping an eye also on cash flow as the business progresses is key, isn't it? It's very easy to lose track of cash flow. And one of the things that used to always concern me was speaking to a business owner who didn't know what their turnover was. Their answer was, that's my accountant's job.
Yes, oh my goodness, nightmare.
Exactly. So you certainly want to avoid that situation. Well, some very interesting points so far, and maybe you, our listeners, would like to share your views. Have you got thoughts on funding, or have you ever applied for a fund? Why don't you tweet us on @RVTheBusiness, call the studio on 01727 839 926, or email us on thebusiness@radioverulam.com. Okay, so let's take a quick break and then we'll move on to our next item.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam, with the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Inspired talk makes inspiring radio.
I'm Katrine, John and Energy. We're here together, and we'd like to make a contact with an ET or someone from another planet. If you're there listening to us tonight, please let yourself be known.
Oh my God, it's against the phone.
That is weird.
That is spooky, and that sound as well, because that really does sound like something, doesn't
That's
it?
so weird.
So check us out Wednesday evenings 8 to 10, Inspired Talk with me, Energy, on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
In Coney Heath, Jersey Farm and Hatfield.
Your place, your voice, your music.
92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
Well, welcome back all, and hopefully, Rachel, we haven't lost you.
I'm still here.
Yay, well done for hanging on. So welcome back to everyone, and we're on to my next item for our panel discussion this week. Even prehistoric firms should embrace social media is the title of this particular theme. The owners of a hotel in Denver, Colorado are spending big on a dinosaur-themed renovation, and the social media exposure they hope will make their property a hit. A few miles away from Greg and Meredith Talley's Best Western Denver Southwest Hotel, which lies in Dinosaur Ridge in Colorado, an outcrop of rocks that contains the remains of giant dinosaurs that once roamed this. I'm trying not to laugh. This is a genuine story, would you believe, which roamed this corner of the United States and called it home. The Talleys think Dinosaur Ridge is an important important part of American history. Say no more. And potential tourist hotspot in the making. So, to that end, their hotel is currently undergoing a $3.25 million, £2.2 million renovation to become half hotel, half natural history museum. To promote the new venture, Mr. Talley is doing what many business owners do to drum up business, turning to social media. Social media is often billed as a low-cost method of business marketing. After all, platforms like Facebook, Twitter and Tumblr are free to use and do not require sophisticated online savvy. But Mr. Talley took a different approach, spending $35,000 on a personalised cartoon drawn and hosted by Seattle-based cartoonist Matt Inman, whose The Oatmeal website garners 7 million unique viewers a month. More importantly, this investment, he says, yielded more than 70,000 Facebook fans and 8,000 Twitter follows globally. Of course, the key factor in my mind is, will they be able to turn clicks into revenue? So I guess the question after that very strange story is, how important is social media, and can you actually turn tweets into cash? After all, yes, 70,000 Facebook fans, yes, 8,000 Twitter followers globally, but so what? How do you turn it into cash? David, any thoughts?
Well, I'm a user of social media, but I think for business owners listening, it's important to remember that Twitter, Facebook and so on, they're just tools. They're just marketing tools, and you have to understand them as those. The best way to look at them is think back to the business world without the internet, when businesses had the telephone and the mail to reach their potential customers. But just because you had a phone didn't mean that you were going to get any business. It didn't mean anyone was going to call you. And just because you sent out a load of junk mail didn't mean that you were going to turn that into pounds. And think of Twitter and Facebook in exactly the same way. If you've got 1,000 followers on Twitter and you send out a tweet, it's as good as sending out, arguably, 1,000 mail shots. Okay. It doesn't mean it's going to result in business.
Okay.
I think the strategy behind it is very important.
Okay, Rachel, what do you think?
Well, I think the most important thing is to have a product or a service that people actually want. And if you do have that, and for example, if this dinosaur museum is something that people would actually want to go and see, that's the absolute key thing. I think sometimes people get it the wrong way around, and they think, oh, social media, what a great idea. We'll just totally focus on that. And kind of it'll all happen and it'll be great. But actually you just need to really focus on what you're actually selling. And I think the thing about social media, particularly Twitter, it does take quite a long time to understand. It's not a matter of just sending out, buy my product, buy my product. In fact, the companies that do that are just, nobody takes any notice. Twitter is about having a conversation. It's almost tangential to sort of selling things on your business. It's about having a conversation with customers about being there. So the companies that send out preset tweets, that go out sort of ahead of time, you kind of prearrange, hopeless, because they're not of the now and they're not engaging people in conversation, and they're really easy to spot. And the people that say, buy my product, again, hopeless. The successful businesses are the ones that have got a really good product and that are simply using this as a way of communicating with their customers and really kind of getting into conversation and sharing interesting things that they've seen. So it's quite a difficult art to get into. And I think that the final thing to say is there is a danger that companies spend too much time on all of this and perfecting their Facebook page and everything, and actually kind of neglecting the core thing they should be focusing on, which is the product or service they're selling.
Claire, can we turn social media, Facebook, Twitter into valuable cash?
I think certainly we can, and as I say, the proof's in the pudding. And I've had business from Twitter and I've had business from LinkedIn. So to me, that's evidence that it works. I agree with what everyone else has said. It's a tool. It's a good way to get information quite often, the social networks, and to keep yourself up to date with what's happening. And that in itself is quite useful if you're in business, just to be up to date and to see what everybody else is doing. So yes, I'm a fan of social media.
I mean, I think, we're we've all talked about the fact that we're all engaged in social media. Certainly we use it for the business. David, you look poised to say something there.
Well, after pointing out its limitations, I thought I should say something positive in support of social media, and it's free. I think that's a really important thing, that if you were sending out junk mail, it would cost you money, but it is a free tool. Yeah, important point. And we've got Vicky jumping up and down on her chair.
Well, I think one thing that's got to be said here is, how would the business and us and the Radio Verulam folk have got to hear about Tally's Best Western Denver Southwest Hotel on Dinosaur Ridge if it hadn't been for all of this activity?
Yes.
And the reality is that if you believe that in telling people about your product, the more people that you tell, the more likely there are to be people out there that do want to go to Denver and they do like dinosaurs, then, there is a degree of inevitability that the more people that you actually manage to communicate with, the more likely you are to find customers. And I think that I agree once again with everything that everybody's said, but there is no doubt that it is a phenomenal opportunity to talk to huge numbers of people, if you get it right, on a global scale, which, when you're talking about tourism, which these guys clearly are, is fantastic.
It is, but playing devil's advocate, I'd still like to know whether you can actually turn it into hard cash. I'd love to see what happens with that hotel and whether they actually manage to be able to say this many more visitors came and stayed in our hotel because, and I'm sure they'll be tracking it, but it'd be very interesting to see how it works.
But it's not, marketing is no longer a vertical operation. It's completely 360 degrees. So what they won't be able to do is to say those people came because of only Twitter or only Facebook or only whatever else it was that they were doing. It will be another communication tool, as we've talked about, as part of the communication mix, as part of their position within Denver's tourism operation, etc., etc. So, Claire's got business out of Twitter and Facebook. I've had business out of Twitter and LinkedIn, not Facebook. But let's see.
Excellent. Okay, final words, David?
On social media?
Yeah, right, whatever you want.
And I would use social media. I would use it as part of a broader marketing strategy. As small business owners, just go for it.
Just go for it. Rachel, you?
Well, I think the final words for the dinosaur people is if they can constantly update the tweets telling us, dinosaur finds and bones and things that they found, that would be really, really exciting. So, they need to do it themselves, not outsource it to someone else, and to really sort of build up a dialogue. What happened next? Did it turn out to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex or Diplodocus? Then we will be following, because it'll be really, really interesting. And I suppose the final word is that I'm on Twitter. Rachel Bridge 100. We're all on it. It's a conversation. You need to be on it to be in the conversation, and I think that's really good that they're doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rachel. And David, what's your Twitter account?
At Canopy Law.
There you go. We're all on Twitter, and as you know, we are at RVTheBusiness. Thank you all again. As ever, very interesting panel discussion about dinosaurs. I can't believe we're out of time, but we are.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Thank you.
St Albans District Neighbourhood Watch is an organisation run by the community in the interests of reducing crime and hooliganism throughout the district. It works in close partnership with the local police and members of the council. It has been shown that crime is greatly reduced in recognised neighbourhood watch areas. If you wish to become a member, which costs you nothing, ring the Watch Liaison Officer on 01727 796 087.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
With Phil Richards in the morning and Danny Smith at drive time. 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
Well, a fantastic business discussion as always, headed up by Roma. Any thoughts on the rest of the show tonight? What did you think you learnt this evening, Roma?
I want to go and stay in the dinosaur hotel.
Have they really got whole dinosaurs there? You see, we're talking about it, so it has to be working.
Well,
doesn't
I'm
it?
fascinated. I sort of started searching them, and I haven't looked at the website properly yet. But now I'm kind of intrigued. So you're right; it does work, doesn't it?
Well, I have to say I'm a big fan, and I think what David said about it being free and just go for it has got to be case in point. Claire, what about your thoughts on the show tonight?
Yeah, I found what David was saying very interesting about the deposit. When I first started Compact Video, I didn't take a deposit from anyone, and pretty soon I did. After about 6 months, I did start taking a deposit. So I would second that as a very good piece of advice. Yes, and I've just enjoyed it tonight, and particularly the social media discussion.
We could have gone on all night, couldn't we? It's great.
Yeah, Rachel had some great stuff to say too, didn't
absolutely. So thanks to all the guests as usual. Just before we hit the 9 o'clock news, a few announcements as usual. One of the things that everybody must look out for is the launch of the Archant Herts and Cambridge Business Awards 2013. That's promoting business excellence across the area. They're launching at Brocket Hall and in association with Brocket Hall on the 13th of June, 4:30 till 7 o'clock. Drinks, reception, presentations, lots of exciting stuff. Carriages at 7, which I rather like the idea of. It's a free event, but places are limited and filling up fast. I have approached them and hope that that the business are going to be going along and interviewing some of the people that are going to be entering the Business Awards. So look out for that. The other thing that I've got on the diary is on the 19th of April, the IOD breakfast. Roma mentioned it last week, but it's Roger Bibby at the Ramada Hatfield talking about the alternatives to bank finance, which, given the talk of grants today, could be interesting. Details of that are on the IOD website, www.iod.com/events. Have you got any events?
I really just wanted to reiterate, any businesses out there that are interested in that grant for growth even, and want to get hold of Stuart Thomas, please do get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with Stuart.
That is The Business you've been listening to. Good evening.
Don't forget, if you want to contact us, you can call us on 01727 839 926, email us on thebusiness@radioverulam.com or Twitter @RVTheBusiness. Speak to you soon.